Hey YouTube, welcome back to a brand new Animal Crossing New Horizons video. Today we're going over 5 things you should know before choosing your island map. So without further ado, let's get straight into today's video. So Animal Crossing New Horizons is literally 5 days away now, which is absolutely mad. It's been a long time coming and now we are so close. Anyway, when we finally start the game, we will get to choose the layout of our island. In fact, Timmy and Tommy offer up 4 unique and randomized island maps to choose from. These will be different each time, so don't worry if you don't like the look of any of these. Of course, resetting and starting over until you find the perfect map may be possible, but even if you pick out an island and later down the line decide you no longer like it, we now have the option and ability to terraform our island and completely redesign the layout whenever we like. We can add, remove or change the direction of rivers, we can dig out or add cliffs, and even make ponds and waterfalls. It's pretty awesome. So really, it doesn't really matter which map we choose at the beginning of the game because ultimately it can be changed. However, there are a few things you should know before choosing a map despite being able to terraform them later. Number 1. River exits. It turns out that the mouths of rivers, or where the rivers exit the land and enter the sea, cannot be moved or terraformed. These are typically surrounded by a few rocks as the beach widens and the river water exits. Unfortunately, these are in fact permanent fixtures, and it's worth remembering this when choosing your island map because you'll have to live with the locations of these exits unless of course you delete your island and start over. The good news is there are a few options surrounding these features. The map will always have 2 river exits, and one of those exits will always be to the south, which also happens to be on the opposite side of the map to the airport. The second exit will then be on either the east, south or west sides of the map. So although the position of these exits will vary, some will be high towards the back, others will be lower towards the front, it's important to remember you'll need to decide whether you want a map with east and south river mouths, south and south river mouths, or west and south river mouths. It doesn't matter whereabouts they start inland, like from ponds or waterfalls, because those can be changed. Personally, I've given this a lot of thought and I think I want east and south river exits. Having 2 exits to the south will mean there's too much going on at the bottom of the beach for me. But with that said, I'd want my side river exit to be as low as possible so it doesn't affect how I terraform the cliffs at the top. Anyway, let us know which you would choose in the comments. Number 2. Resident Services. As soon as we land on our new island, we will have an introduction at the Resident Services Centre, which will become an important part of our island life. This area will eventually become the Town Hall too, where Tom Nook and Isabelle reside. And somewhere events like bug-offs and fishing tourneys are held. Although it's confirmed we can choose where to place buildings such as the museum or Able Sisters anywhere we like, and even relocate them later down the line if we want to, there's been no word yet to whether or not the Resident Services building or the Town Hall can be moved. The Resident Services Centre includes a large plaza of sorts where the bulletin board is and visitors like event hosts set up shop, so given the size, it's highly unlikely this can be changed later. So when it comes to selecting your island map, you need to think a little about where you want things to go, such as your house, future villager houses and other buildings, and even roughly where you're going to want paths, because when you start developing your island and linking things up with paths or designing the outside features like rivers and cliffs, the resident services area could be in the way. So this is something to bear in mind just in case it can't be moved later. Personally, I'd probably work with any location, but I do want my resident services to be fairly low down, I think, maybe in the lower third of the map. If it's too high up, it will definitely get in the way of terraforming cliffs and things like that. But what do you think about this? Will it bother you, or will you just work around it? Number 3. Land outlets. Based on the maps we've seen so far in various gameplay, trailer and playthroughs, we know the majority of maps have a little outlet of land or a land extension, depending on what you'd prefer to call it, that extends the grass from the ground level out across the beach and right out to sea, almost like a little pier of grass. It's a pretty neat little feature and something I think will become very recognisable when we talk about New Horizons maps in the future. However, it was revealed by one of the larger news outlets at PAX East, I believe, that these grassy areas are in fact a permanent feature and again cannot be terraformed. So you can't move it or make it narrower or shorten it and things like that. Now, although probably a very tiny detail, it's something to remember when selecting our maps because it will always look like that no matter how we change up our layouts over time. Of course, the upside is there are a few options surrounding this piece of land. It will appear on either the east or west side of the islands, and its position along the coastline can vary. On some maps it can be towards the rocks at the back of the island, and on others it can be more central or towards the bottom beach. We have seen a couple of maps without this strip of land too, but they were from earlier gameplay, likely from a previous build of the game, so there's a good chance every map now will include this outlet of land. Personally, I don't really mind where mine would be. I think given its location on the edge of the map, this is something I could work around no matter where it is. I think this will also be a popular spot for lighthouses too. Number 4. Third Cliffs. So as you know, multi-layered towns are returning to New Horizons, which is a huge fan favourite, and we can now have up to 4 layers, which consists of the ground level, the first cliff, second cliff and a third cliff. This has caused some confusion because in the majority of gameplay that we've seen, it shows the player on the top level of the island, but actually what we're seeing is the player on the second cliff, which is the third level, not the top. So far the map options we've seen only have 3 layers, the ground and 2 cliffs, but a 4th layer can be added by terraforming later in the game and can actually be spotted in some scenes if you look closely. We just don't start with it. Again revealed at PAX East a few weeks back, the 4th layer, the cliffs we can create on the top layer we start with, are inaccessible. Although I struggle to find the real source, apparently when you try to climb up using the ladder you are presented with some dialogue that says it's too dangerous to climb up there. The best example to see this outside of gameplay is by looking at the original E3 map, which shows the ground level here, which is the beach and grass area, the first cliff, which is the second layer, the second cliff, which is the third layer, and the third cliff, which is the 4th layer. It's this very light green, thin cliff that is inaccessible. Although not a real game changer, seems we can terraform almost everywhere and don't even have to construct it in the first place, this is something to remember if you're planning on having a lot of cliffs on your island later on in the game. There will likely be limitations to having cliffs offset back from existing cliffs, so if you choose your map based on the position of rocks or even a pond and waterfall you like, it could be useful to know if you want to add this additional layer, you'll need space to do so. However, given this 4th layer will be out of bounds and most likely super thin, it will act as a good barrier for features on the 3rd layer. Number 5. The dock. So just like a few other features on the New Horizons island map, there are a few more, including the dock, some large rocks and a private beach. Although these 3 features are somewhat unrelated, they are all permanent fixtures and cannot be terraformed or moved later on, at least as far as we know. The dock, which we've seen a few times, is a great fishing spot and hopefully the location of Capin's boat, but it's important to remember that the dock will either be located on the east or west side of the island and always positioned towards the south. I guess it's not really that big of a deal, but the location of this could have an impact on the development of your island if you were planning on having a lot of villagers living by the beach, for example. Furthermore, the private beach cannot be moved, but its location will vary. Sometimes it's more central, other times it appears closer to the shores on the edges of the island map. It's likely that the private beach is inaccessible at the start of the game, so if you have some grand ideas for terraforming cliffs, or if like me you're planning on having lots of pathways at the back of the island, the location of the private beach could be important when choosing your map. The same can be said for the larger rocks in random spots along each shore. So yeah, just a few things we should remember before choosing the island maps to start our games with. I would say some of these are less important than others, but could save a lot of disappointment later down the line. Unfortunately, despite messaging a few news outlets and watching countless playthroughs, I struggled to find the original sources for these, so I would say these aren't 100% confirmed, but at the same time keep these in mind anyway, because it's pretty likely these will be the restrictions we'll come across. Anyway, for now, that pretty much wraps up this video. If you're an Animal Crossing fan, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any New Horizons news. Until then, I'd like to give a special thank you to this channel's Patreon supporters, you guys rock. Don't forget to head over to our Discord server too, and of course, if you got this far in the video, please comment map, just to let me know you did. That would be super awesome. And please be sure to include how you feel about these restrictions and which areas you would prefer to have your river exits on. I'd love to know. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video and found it entertaining. Please be sure to leave a like if you did. I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll see you in my next video. Peace.